Hey guys, I've been enjoying making these guided prayer videos for you, and this one I wanted to mix it up a little bit. I want to introduce you to my friend Jerome. He's a former pastor, now he's an executive coach and an author of an amazing book called Gravitas, and he's also a part of our church family. So maybe you'll recognize him. He's led worship before, and he's around theHeart. He's a part of us. I went on a retreat that Jerome led last year, and he exposed me to this mental image that he uses sometime in prayer. And I thought maybe this would be the final in this mini-series, is exposing you to this amazing little mental image that Jerome has used to embrace maybe the part of our lives where we feel distracted in prayer. So is that okay that we get distracted sometime in our prayer? Well, let's talk to Jerome about that. Why don't you introduce yourself to the youth? That'd be great.
Okay, youth. I am Jerome Daley, and I've probably seen many of you uh, around the halls at the worship place of the Heart back when we were actually meeting together in person. And I hope you're really doing well. It's been a challenging season to be separated in many ways, but I look forward to having a conversation with you today. And Ethan, thanks for letting me be part of it.
Yeah. Jerome has been, I don't know what the word is, mentor, friend, brother in Christ. And one of his areas of expertise, youth, is prayer and contemplation. So we've been focusing a little bit of that on the last, couple weeks of youth videos. And I, I think if you're human, you've probably been distracted at some point in your prayer life. And Jerome and I have had some conversations about that. So I just thought maybe Jerome could give you guys a little bit of a glimpse into maybe some things that he does to help navigate distractions during prayer. So, Jerome, have you ever been distracted in prayer?
No, not really. uh, oh
When
no, of
Jerome
course.
prays, he floats above the ground. No, just
Well,
kidding.
yes, there is that. Uh, no, I think there's particular styles of prayer that invite distraction. So most of us grow up learning to pray by having conversations with God, worded conversation. So we're talking to God about the things that matter to us and the things that that are pressing on our hearts. So whether it's prayer requests for ourselves or other people, or trying to process through emotions that we might be experiencing, these are beautiful ways to connect with God. And when we're talking to God, there's that sort of tether, if you will, to our attention, to the languaging around it. Sometimes, though, one of the most beautiful ways to pray is to just really let our hearts get quiet and actually listen. Because God's
It
always
sounds
talking.
easier said than done, right?
Well, it is surprisingly challenging sometimes to get quiet. It's easier to talk than it is to listen. And maybe that's true in our human relationships, true, but right. But certainly in our relationship with God, it's I think there's some real faith that gets activated when we believe that God wants to talk back and that God has things to say to us. So there, in that process of getting quiet, can create a bit of a vacuum of space, and into that vacuum rushes every thought and distraction and things we're supposed to be doing or we didn't do or are bothered about, or we're hungry or tired or any of those things, and really try to intrude on this intimate space we're creating with God. It can be a challenge.
So is there anything that maybe we could help direct ourselves when the thoughts flood in and we are distracted? Is there any way we can, I don't know, embrace that or refocus, or if you feel like you can't quiet the things that are going on in your head, is there anything to do to use that in prayer, perhaps? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think so. At least one of the sort of mental word pictures that's been useful for me in my journey and that I've received from others and shared with others is this mental picture of sitting beside a river, and I'm sitting there in an Adirondack chair, and there's another chair beside me, and Jesus is sitting in that chair. We're not looking at each other in this picture in my mind. We're sort of sitting side by side, and we're looking together at this river. And I imagine all of the thoughts that want to sort of push themselves in and clamor for my attention, they are sort of debris floating down in the water, and I'm sort of watching them move by
Mm.
as I'm sitting there. And this is helpful for me for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that reminder that my thoughts are not me. They're separate from me. You know, I mean, they're thoughts that are coming to me, but they are not the essence of me. So I can actually watch these thoughts drift by, and I don't have to cling on to them.
Mm.
And I don't let them cling on to me. It's just sort of acknowledging them, kind of like, I see you, and then letting that thought drift on by and letting it go.
Mm.
And letting Jesus sort of watch with me this
Mm.
little bit of a procession, this little bit of a parade of thoughts go by my screen, and it can be something that is actually quite intimate with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Together we're kind of watching these things go by, and he sees them and I see them, and we're sort of kind of together just experiencing that they exist, that concern, that wondering, that little bit of apprehension, maybe that thing coming up, or that relationship that's not quite the way I wish it were. But that allows me a little bit to acknowledge and let go, and then just return to that sense of presence,
That
that
was great.
sense of being. Yeah. So what do
Yeah,
you think of that?
the idea that Jesus is next to us and he's not necessarily sometimes I feel like I have to empty myself before I can pray, but the idea that Jesus can be with there as he watches everything that's on my mind, as if he cares about it too, because he does. I think that picture and that image, if we can keep that in our heads when we pray and we feel distracted, it feels less threatening to be aware of the stuff that is burdening us when we realize that Jesus is with us in those things. I don't know. I'm kind of picturing, I don't know if you picture certain things floating downstream, but like in the fall when it's like leaves, and sometimes they like clog up sections of the stream. That's what my mind feels like a lot of the time. So the movement is continuing, but that doesn't threaten the fact that I'm with Jesus, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So this picture kind of helps embrace the movement that happens in our minds, and at the same time we're able to rest with God, maybe not even despite of, but even in the movement.
Stillness really is something that we get to cultivate over time. It
Mhm.
doesn't just sort of magically appear. It's something that, and I think that's why we call these things spiritual practices, because it's
Yes.
like learning a new sport or a musical instrument. There's a sense of going over and over something till we get some kind of muscle memory around it. And I think that's true even in the spiritual dimension, that we're sort of training our hearts to not get cluttered, but to be more and more comfortable with a more sparse space, with a more gentle uh, way of being with God and with being with ourselves. Because trying to resist thoughts is just impossible. It doesn't really work. It just sort of sets us up for a antagonistic relationship with ourselves. And I feel like Jesus is much more compassionate and gentle with us than sometimes we are with ourselves.
If you were saying, hey, Jesus, let's go down to the river, and there's stuff that's really interesting floating by the river, the point of you guys being there was being there together, even if there's something that you guys watch unfold before you. I don't know. I think that helps frame things a lot, because if our brains are very active and we have like a lot of thoughts going on our head, sometimes it feels like, are we ready to be with God or not? And I think realizing that God is there regardless of how busy our heads are, or that we can spend time with God, filtering through the stuff in our lives. After you do this mental exercise, and it's spiritual practice of imagining the stuff in your life floating by you and you're hanging out with Jesus, do you feel like you've spent time with Jesus well?
Boy, that's a good question. You know, I think there are, I guess the short answer is yes. I think that it is time well spent. And I think it's just one way to spend time with Jesus. There are sort of events that come to our mind, there are conversations, there are activities, and then there are also just emotions, just feelings that may not be tied to a specific, event or circumstance. So I think it's the circumstances that are the easiest to let go
Sure.
of. The emotions, I feel like, are a real invitation from Jesus to engage with Jesus around that emotion. So Lord, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling a little embarrassed or ashamed about something, or I'm anxious, or I'm angry, and those sorts of emotions sort of can feel illegitimate, or like we've got to get rid of those. Those aren't good or allowable. And I think Jesus would say quite the opposite. I think he would say, come to me, and let me feel what you're feeling. And let's talk about that together, because I've got something for you right at that point.
Maybe when you watch the parade of things go by, you're more aware of why you feel the way you feel. And Jesus sees all that. For me, knowing that one of the things God wants out of us is being still and being in solitude and being quiet and spending time with him in that way, I need these reminders to realize that the stuff of my life, he cares about that, and that they don't have to threaten my relationship with God, but can actually be a means through which I commune with him more deeply and get to know him better as I reveal myself to him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't say it any better than that. I think you're spot on. So yes, I think God is training us to use every single thing that intrudes into our lives, or comes into our lives, whether it feels like it's a good thing or a bad thing or a sideways thing or whatever kind of a thing. It is rich soil for coming into intimacy with God. One of the skills is learning how to sift through the inner noise, and another skill is learning how to actually remove ourselves for periods of time from the noise. And so, one of the places that's easiest for me to get still is outside in the beauty of creation. I was running up Rich Mountain this morning and just hanging out in my little secret meadow up there, enjoying some literal quiet time. Most of our lives are not inherently quiet, but there's a practice of cultivating actual quiet times and then sort of bringing that quiet, that inner quiet, into the noisy times in our life.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What would you say to youth that are dealing with maybe a little bit more in the stream than normal because of all that's happening in the world?
Yeah, well, there's so much going on in the world right now. I think whether the world feels safe and stable and known, or completely the opposite, that the very first spiritual practice we learn is the practice of paying attention. And that, I believe, is multidimensional. In paying attention to God's heart toward us in that space, what he would want to say, what he would want to do, to comfort or direct or lead or encourage or prompt us or whatever. Paying attention even to the world, even with its kind of craziness right now. I think there's something about paying attention to the corporate experience of our brothers and sisters in the world, and how God is meeting us as a human body, a fellowship of men and women. So these acts of paying attention, I'll conclude it with this. There's an opportunity. I think you mentioned you've talked with the youth about the daily exam, and so whether that's a new idea or a familiar idea, I'll just close with that thought that at the end of each day is a wonderful time to kind of cycle back. Hopefully you've had some sense of connection with God beginning of your day. Then you can have the chance to sort of bookend it at the end of your day by looking back. It's almost sort of like, I don't know, maybe it's sort of walking up to the bank and looking down the river to see all that's sort of gone by. Sure. And go, Lord, you were there with me through that whole day. And thank you. Some of the things that I experienced in that day felt like it brought life. Some of it maybe felt like it brought other things that were not terribly life. Through all of it, loving me, caring for me, providing for me every step of the way. So anyway, my youth friends, thanks for listening to this, and I look forward to when we can greet each other again in person.
Thank you so much, Jerome. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Our regular weekly youth group meetings will begin in August, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with you guys. We're going to dive into the books of Jonah, Amos, and Ruth, and how God has an interest in a just and righteous society. All right, I'll see you guys next time, and Godspeed.